Alex, you've been vocal the last couple games just about how your team hasn't come together in various situations. Just kind of where is the team at right now?
No, I think we had a good day of practice today and yesterday, and it's always is always helpful. I think we have good guys, but and we've done it at times. We just need to be more consistent approaching the game about what my role is. Like what's my role as far as how do I tie into the group and the other four guys on the court or even on the bench. But it's a learning process, a maturing process, and again, first year being together, it's that's kind of the norm now. But yeah, it does take time.
You've talked a lot about the process, just learning. I'm curious for you, with a month left of the season and the off season coming up, just how do you kind of reflect on this year, and kind of what have you learned from just this process as a whole?
Well, I knew we would, with the first year, it's not an excuse, never easy, but again, it's day by day, and then when you're trying to build something, like when the next year rolls around and people come in, they can sense I'm always hesitant to use the word culture, but like how things are done and what expectations are, which has gotten better over the year, and then again, being the second year, I think it'll get better.
How do you feel like you've adapted in your role as head coach, coming from the NBA ranks as a longtime assistant to now being the man and the head coach here in college? How do you feel like you've adjusted over the year?
No, I think it takes I've been a head coach before, but it takes a while to get into that cadence. Plus, the college game is different, a lot of difference. But I think I've improved. Again, like at any level, you just go back to like what's the core of your team, like the things that's what's kind of been upsetting, is because you got to have any good team has to do a few things right. Like when you watch that team, what you're going to get out of them.
Obviously, I assume coaching college players is maybe a little bit different than NBA guys. Have you kind of picked up on any of those differences, and what does that look like? Have you had to adjust anything in your coaching formula or your regimen or anything like that?
No, it's interesting because it's kind of college right now. It's kind of evolving rather fast, and I think university coaches and players are getting used to the new norm. But no, I think again, I'm reminded of in my first year. Players are all the same. You have to coach them individually and collectively, and you just have to help them realize when the group does well. The best thing for anybody individually is when the group does well. I go back to any team I played on or coached on. When you win, everybody benefits.
You talked about good day of practice today, yesterday. How has the team, responded mentally in the gym to, the last couple of games and how things have went down?
I'll give it to our guys. I think they've always bounced back. Again, it's making, being more consistent with the defense, like just the little things, the things you can control, and, falling into shots instead of necessarily hunting them, but just being on the same page together. But yeah, they've always bounced back and done a good job with that. Now you just got to be consistent. That's the challenge, is to do it every possession, not only in practice but in the games.
Utah and Arizona State both come in, needing a win. What stands out about the Sun Devils?
The Sun Devils, I think they're dangerous. They're explosive. They can score a lot of points. I think there's some similarities to Oklahoma State. And again, hopefully we can be led off of our defense. I think that helps us offensively, and then vice versa. If we take care of the ball offensively, and if we make it easy for them defensively, like if we, no pass shots, we shoot shots on the first and second side as opposed to like the third and fourth, then it makes defending them a lot harder, and I think it plays into their strengths.
With Jacob being out for so long, is there a scenario where he can come? Will he be available this year?
It's a good question. I try to stay out of that. I've learned that a long time ago because that's not my area of expertise. I'm not going to ask the docs and our trainer to help me out with like zone offense or anything. But no, we don't want to again rush guys back, and yeah, it definitely hurts. It'd be helpful to have him, but again, the guys, I try not to dwell on that because we have a game tomorrow and move ahead with the guys we have.
Obviously, you have a lot of season left, but you hired Wes for roster transactions, preparing for the portal. What kind of work, I guess, does he do behind the scenes to kind of prepare for, the portal in March and all of those things coming up here in about a month and a half?
That was one of the things that stuck out to me. I knew it was going to be like that because we're busy in the season, and that's the advantage of this year because obviously we weren't here. So a lot of the, you got to have somebody dedicated to that, kind of leading that charge instead of the coaches because you have games and scouts and you have the players that are here. But you kind of the prep. So when the portal comes, like you've done that work, and it's kind of fun. It's interesting. It's similar to the NBA in some aspects, but the pool's so many more players. So it's actually been fun. But yeah, that was the one thing I knew I needed when I came.
What sort of work has been done, recruiting during the season? I'm sure it's changed with the way that the game has evolved. But just what sort of work have you guys been doing on the recruiting trail in the season?
We obviously we go out and recruit at times. We watch film together. We meet about it. It's kind of interesting because it's, as a coach, it's kind of you're more worried about the next game. But like we've done a good job, I think, meeting together. And everybody on the staff watches players and games. So like we have our lists and a lot of work to be done. But you try to filter it out and you have a hierarchy of positions and players.
Sticking with the recruiting side of things a little bit, now that you've been in this a little bit, do you have a preference on just trying to get more experience through maybe the transfer portal, going overseas, or do you still think high school ranks is kind of where you need to be? Do you kind of have a good feel of where you need to be?
It's interesting because I think we're still figuring that out. I think it's a combination of all of them. I don't think there's any one area we're focusing on strongly. I mean, obviously you can see that people have had a lot of success with, being older, but at the same time we just played, Arizona and started 3 freshmen. Now we're not right now in the place to be in the running for players like that, but I think it'd be a combination of it, and I think more so than that, you're trying to find the core characteristics of a player you want, and they've got to want to be here, which seems simple and obvious, but it's a big deal.
With other sports in the last month of the season, conversations start happening about players' futures and stuff. At what point are you guys going to start having conversations with the guys currently on roster about, what their futures look like?
That's another reason I think you need a general manager or even a front office because the communications with, agents is crucial because it's got to be ongoing throughout the year, whether it's next year or anything. Injuries with players, but that's one thing Wes has been invaluable for us because he, has those conversations and leads that charge, and we're part of those discussions at the same time as trying to win the next game. But yeah, I think I don't know how you do it without somebody like Wes.
One more. You've obviously pulled Lucas from Spain, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of NCAA programs that have pulled from the G League. Has that been anything that you would consider, being an NBA guy, going after a G League guy, or even pulling more out of Europe?
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about it, and again, we haven't, focused on one thing, but I think it's the type of player. But yeah, no, we've explored all that, and it's interesting because there's still a lot of questions of who has eligibility and who doesn't, or you're trying to anticipate how those rules are going to change. But yeah, we've explored all that.